Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. I'm just seeing that there's still a few people that are coming on. I'm hoping that everyone can see me. If just yell out in the chat if there's any issues or anything like that. But yeah, I can see some people are still joining us. But let's just get started. Okay, so today's webinar is not just about how easy you can lodge your BAS with TaxLeopard. It's also how you can maximize your deductions. So effectively, you're legally paying a lot less GST or what you're entitled to with the ATO. So I've always got to include that word legally. So just a quick one, a little bit about us. There might be some people that have joined us before, but who is TaxLeopard? What we do? Well, we're an all-in-one accounting software that not only manages all your income and expenses, but you've got accountants in the background that can lodge all your BAS returns, tax returns, as well as just managing your everyday business in terms of bookkeeping, invoicing, logbooks, and all that stuff. So we're an all-in-one solution. We're mainly focused on self-employed individuals. Just some of the topics we will cover today. Basically, do Uber drivers need an ABN? Do you have to register for GST? What is GST? How is it calculated? Records that you need to keep to report all your expenses, I guess. And what expenses can I claim on my BAS? As well as some other questions. Do I need to keep a logbook? And also understanding some of your BAS obligations. We'll also have an exclusive offer at the end of this, and I'll also share a very interesting article that is kind of changing. You'll see, but it's about the landscape of the tax industry as well and what's going on. So do I need an ABN? As many of you know, if you're I can see some hands raised. We'll have Q&A at the end of it. So you'll be able to ask all the questions, any question that you like. So yes, effectively you would have noticed when you became an Uber driver, you would have had to register an ABN. It's effectively just an identity that's saying, hey, I'm self-employed. The ATO uses that number. You obviously have to also put it on all your invoices as well when you're invoicing your clients and stuff like that. But it's just basically a number that a 9-digit number that the ATO gives you that's you're unique, so they understand that you are self-employed and you put that in your tax return. So do Uber drivers have to register for GST? The short of it is, once you're a rideshare driver, yes, you need to register for GST. So the other, I guess, examples that if you earn over 75,000 or more from any sort of business income, not including rideshare, you do need to register for GST. So anything that you do outside of ride sharing, and you're earning over 75,000, you need to register for GST. But that they have special rules for rideshare drivers that you may or may not be aware of, that once you start doing rideshare driving, it doesn't matter how much you're earning, you need to register for GST. So, but I'll jump on the next slide, which explains this in a much more easier format. So basically, if you're doing, for example, food delivery only, right, and you're earning under 75,000, no GST registration is required. If you are only doing, again, only food delivery and you're earning over 75,000, you're required to lodge a BAS, either monthly or quarterly. The exception of the rule, you could be doing either food delivery. As soon as you do ride share driving, it doesn't matter, as you can see here, whether I'm earning under 75K or over 75K, you must lodge a BAS statement. So that's like an easy summary. So that's the key word here, rideshare driver. And then if you're a rideshare driver, you need to register. If you're not, then these rules apply. So here's also just an example about how GST is calculated as an Uber driver, right? So I'm going to give you two examples. One is when you need to pay GST to the ATO. And the second example is when you could potentially get a refund of your GST from the ATO, right? So first one, if I've got a payable, you can see your gross sales, right? In this case, there's say 11,000 for the quarter, or it could be for the month, but in this example, it's for the quarter. And my total expenses is say 5,500, right? So it's a really simple formula. You get your total sales, which is your income from ride sharing or food delivery. And then you divide that by 11. I would have $1,000 payable. That means you owe the ATO. But what minimizes it is the GST that you claim on all your business expenses. We'll go through the expenses, but in this case, say my total expenses were 5,500. GST and expenses is 500, right? So you would do a simple calculation. It's literally just $1,000 on my sales, less $500 on all my expenses. I would owe the ATO $500, right? And the opposite applies. This is an example of a refund, but effectively my sales, you can see here, it's 5,500, but my expenses in this case are the other way around, right? So my expenses in this case is 11,000. If you do 500 less 1,000, I get a $500 refund from the ATO. Again, I can see some hands going up, so we'll have Q&A at the end. Just hold off. Okay. So this is just a quick slide. We can assist you with your ABN and GST registration through the TaxLeopard app if you need assistance with that. Required records for Uber drivers. So general requirements are that you either need either receipts or invoices, right? Or you can generally use bank statements as well to support your claims. So basically, if you're not registered for GST, right? So if you just do, for example, food delivery, a receipt or invoice amount is okay. Or if you don't have a receipt or invoice, you can use your bank statement, right? So where it changes, if I'm registered for GST, the ATO have made it that anything over $82.50, which doesn't give you much leeway, it does require an official tax invoice, right? So you can't just have your bank statements. Anything under $82.50, which they don't allow for a lot, as you can see, a receipt or bank record would be okay. So that's just a general. So if you're registered for GST, your expense is over $82.50, you need an invoice to be able to claim that on your BAS. Okay, so vehicle expenses we're just going to go on to some tax deductions for Uber drivers. So vehicle expenses will be your biggest tax deduction or BAS or GST deduction, right? So some of the stuff that you can claim is, for example, fuel and oil, vehicle registration and insurance. These are very self-explanatory. Repairs and maintenance, such as servicing your car and any other maintenance issues. Car loan interest. The big one here that a lot of people miss is actually basically when you purchase a car, you can claim generally the GST on that. So the only rule around that is it needs to be from a GST registered provider. So for example, a dealership, private sale would be a little bit harder because there's no official tax invoice with a GST amount, but you would probably want to go through like a dealership to be able to claim back the GST on that. Then you might have some rental or lease payments as well. So anything that you may just rent the car or lease it, those payments that you make on a either weekly or monthly basis, you can claim the GST and obviously the tax deduction as well. Things such as parking fees as well. So if you need to use your car to park anywhere, tolls, road tolls and stuff like that, and also cleaning as well. So just general cleaning of the motor vehicle. Some other costs that are outside of the car that you can claim is mobile phone and internet expenses, any rideshare platform fees or commissions, anything you sort of provide to your passengers, including passenger comfort items such as phone chargers, and tools and equipment that you need for your job. For example, phone mounts, GPS devices, and dash cams as well. Music subscriptions for your passengers, if you're providing music in the car, is always a good one that you can claim. A lot of drivers miss that one. And then there's admin expenses, so any sort of accounting fees and tax agent fees. So for example, we're registered tax agents, you can claim that as a BAS and tax deduction as well. Any sort of stationery and office supplies, software or apps that you use for managing your rideshare business. For example, with TaxLeopard, we have a subscription service as well for all the other stuff that we provide. So that is perfectly tax deductible. Other sort of deductions can be training or courses related to your business. And then also any sort of advertising and promotional materials, for example, business cards and stuff like that that you may use. First aid kits as well, stationery and sunglasses as well. Basically, if you are on the road, you can claim sunglasses as that's excluding prescription glasses, so that's separate. But sunglasses for like protecting your eyes from the sun, stuff like that. Just a quick one on what can't you claim. Obviously, personal use of your motor vehicle. We'll explain that in a little bit more detail. Personal phone use or anything personal clothing is unfortunately not tax deductible because you're not really required to wear a uniform when you are working as a rideshare or delivery driver. Unfortunately, parking fines, traffic violations, or any late payment penalties are not claimable, unfortunately. And meals and drinks, when you're working, unfortunately, any sort of meals and drinks is not tax deductible, or you can claim that in your BAS. So we're just going to go on to just understanding also the relevance, I guess, of a logbook, of keeping a logbook for your motor vehicle. So basically, why do you need a logbook, right? So you might be, basically it's for the the ATO to understand, okay, you basically need to record trips for a period of 12 weeks, right? So basically at the end of that 12 weeks, what we're trying to do is, or the ATO is trying to understand is, how much do I actually use my car for business purposes, right? So once you've done, so you record it for 12 weeks, you're recording all your kilometers, right? So anything that's business related and private, right? And at the end of it, you'll be given a percentage. Okay, I'm using my car, for example, 90% of the time for business purposes. That means everything that's got to do with your car, you can claim 90% of those expenses. So it's just a way for the ATO to sort of say, okay, well, how much are you actually really using your car for business purposes, right? So that's kind of the probably the easiest way to explain it. But yeah, it's just, you just need to record it for a period of 12 weeks. And then once you've done that, you record all your kilometers, you get a percentage, then all your vehicle expenses, including fuel, registration, depreciation, loan interest, anything that's got to do with your motor vehicle, you claim a percentage of your business use. So this is a question that some may not be aware, but do I need a logbook for my BAS, right? So do I actually need to complete a full 12-week logbook to claim all my car expenses for my BAS? This is in relation to your BAS. I'm not talking about your year-end tax return, right? So basically, the short answer is no. You don't need to, not for your BAS if it's the first time that you're doing a logbook, right? The ATO would be okay with a reasonable estimate, right, on that. So a reasonable estimate could just be, okay, you maybe just have a look at the total kilometers that you've tracked over the last few weeks doing your ride share. And you might say, well, you know, I believe I'm using it 70 or 80%, right? But the logbook will actually give you the real percentage. But for BAS purposes, a reasonable estimate would be okay. So we get a lot of questions saying, hey, I haven't completed my logbook. You know, can I claim, how do I lodge my BAS, right? So I don't have a final percentage, but a reasonable estimate. As long as you've got a bit of data to sort of back that up. You know, if you're working day one as a rideshare driver, it's going to be a little bit hard to say, okay, I reasonably use it after, you know, after a few days or whatever it is. I use it 90% or, you know, 95% for business purposes. So just another one is just some key dates on your BAS lodgements. So basically, they're generally speaking, most rideshare or drivers will lodge their BAS quarterly. So some do it monthly, but I think it's overkill. You've got to lodge a BAS 12 times a year, as to you could just lodge it every quarter. But if you lodge it yourself, right? So we've got these are the quarters. So it's broken down by quarter. If you lodge it yourself, these are the due dates. If you lodge it through us, we're registered tax agent, you actually get an extension, except only just this quarter, the December quarter. For some reason, that's always been on the 28th of February. But as you can see, you get an extra month roughly when you lodge through a tax agent. So common BAS mistakes to avoid. So not keeping accurate records, failing to keep receipts and invoices for expenses, also not maintaining a logbook for vehicle use. As discussed before, even though you don't need it for BAS purposes, it's still good to keep a logbook. That's also going to be for your year-end tax return as well. Because you need for the difference is when you're doing your year-end tax return, you actually do need a logbook, an officially completed logbook, to be able to claim that business percentage in your tax return. So we see it all the time. A lot of rideshare drivers or food delivery drivers, they mix personal and business expenses. Just the best way to do it is have one account for all your business expenses. It's easier for you as well to manage everything rather than you may have like 5 or 6 accounts that you're paying all these expenses. That's perfectly fine, but come at the end of it, it's going to be a lot messy as well. And you're probably most likely going to miss something as well. Obviously, maximizing deductions, knowing what you can and can't claim. We see a lot of rideshare drivers that lodge with us and then sometimes go and do it alone. They usually end up paying a lot more GST in the long run that I've seen, and they usually end up coming back to us anyway. So another one, just not reporting all income. I'll explain on the next slide. Obviously, that all ties into paying too much GST, and obviously, if you miss BAS deadlines, the ATO, I've seen a scrutinizing, late lodgements and stuff like that. I'm seeing penalties there. They're no longer giving a lot of leeway. I'm finding that they're not even accepting excuses as much as to, if you have a penalty, it's harder to get it remitted now from the ATO. So, just try and keep on top of all your lodgements and stuff like that. And if you ever need an extension, just get in touch with them. They're usually pretty good to deal with, as long as you're open and honest with them. And then, look, this is an article that we recently saw, but this is, I guess, an article that the Australian Taxation Office, the ATO, is basically cracking down on ride sharing. This is now happening. So as a registered tax agent, when I say you come to us to prepare your tax return, we need to add you to our tax agent portal. From there, we can see all your if you may be an employee, or you may have some bank interest or share sales. Basically, the ATO is recording all this. Now, what we're starting to see that's actually coming through is any sort of income from Uber or food delivery or any other rideshare platform that is now being reported to the ATO. So the ATO can now see that. And I'm noticing when we're adding clients to our ATO pre-fill, that we're seeing that data come through. So how does it actually happen? It's really simple. The ATO, we talked about getting your ABN. The ATO will go, for example, to Uber, and they'll say, hey, give us a list of all your drivers and their ABNs and how much have they earned for the year. So look, the good days where you could get away with it, potentially there would have been a lot of, obviously that's why the ATO is cracking down. There would have been a lot of people not reporting this income, thinking, okay, I'm just, big deal. No one's going to notice it. Well, they are now. So, and it's simple data matching. They'll ask Uber, give us a list of all your drivers and all their ABNs and how much of they earned. And it's simple data matching. If they don't see that income amount reported on your tax return, it's straight away going to be a red flag and you'll probably get a letter. So we're seeing the compliance, unfortunately, is increasing by the ATO. So it's just a very interesting article. They have been talking about this for quite some time, but now it's really happening. And it's not just going to be limited to rideshare drivers. It's going to be other platforms as well. Airbnb is another big one. Payment platforms from memory, but they're all getting into that sort of gig economy, and they want to know what you're earning and making sure that you are reporting the correct amounts. Just a quick summary. Here's how to lodge your BAS with TaxLeopard. So it's a 3-step process. So the way we do it is you either manually enter your income and expenses in the TaxLeopard app. Alternatively, you can automatically link your bank account and download all your income and expenses. It's super safe and secure. We use a very large banking integration partner that your data's always safe and stuff like that. So there's nothing to be worried about that. So once you have all your income and expenses, you can submit it, your BAS, through the TaxLeopard app. And we don't just lodge it to the ATO, we actually download all your transactions for that quarter, and we make sure we're maximizing it to get you to pay effectively as little GST as possible, or if you're getting a refund, to maximize that as well. So and we'll contact you if there's anything missing, right? So that's kind of it. So you link your expenses, submit it through the app, and we'll contact you if anything's missing, but we'll lodge it to the ATO on your behalf. So the next one here is we've got a special offer as well. So basically, it only applies to web and app subscriptions. Our platform has a lot of features. We're not just accountants that prepare and lodge your tax returns and BAS statements. We provide the software. We've got stuff like invoicing, banking integration. There's a few different plans and stuff like that, but we're offering 30% off any sort of annual plan. So you just enter that code TXL Uber 30. Just note that it is only on web subscription. So just go to our website, taxleopard.com.au, and at the checkout, just enter that code and get 30% off our annual subscriptions. So, and that's valid to the 31st of March. So, okay, I think the more exciting part is we're ready for some Q&As. I can see here, so you'll see, excuse me, you'll see a little Q&A box. So just start typing your questions there. Okay, so I'll start going through. So the first question is, why is it 1/11th? That's actually a good question, because a lot of people do think it's 10%. Basically, that's the proper way to calculate it. You get your total sales and you actually divide it by 11. It's never been, a lot of people just say it's 10% GST, but that's the actual formula on how to calculate it. So I don't know why. It's just GST has always been calculated, but most people think it's that straight 10%. Okay, so another one. How does it work if I bought a car? So yes, as I was explaining before, if you purchased a car and you're registered for GST, you can effectively claim the GST. But just always, where people get it wrong is you want to actually be registered for GST first. So get your business up front before you also purchase the car. There's no point if you bought the car 12 months before, and then I register for GST today, right? So say you bought the car 12 months ago and you're registering for, well, it's going to be hard to claim because you generally weren't registered for GST back then. So it's important, the timing. If you're looking at getting into it, I'm going to purchase a car, get your registrations done first, then look at buying a car. Yeah, so the next one is, if gross sales to Uber. Yeah, so the short answer of that is I understand what your question is. So effectively, what you see in your bank account, Uber have already taken, I think it's 27.5% of. So for example, I'll just use round figures. Let's say you earn $100 on a trip, right? And Uber's fee is $27.50, for example. You just use it. We'll just say $25. Make it nice and simple. So you will see $75 in your bank account, right? So the Uber's commission or platform fees have been taken out. You just receive that amount after the commission. So the way you would report that in that example, you would report $100 of sales, right? And then as an expense, you would record the $25. So you'd be able to claim back that GST. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, bought a car on a novated lease through my other job. Can I use it for Uber? Yes, technically you can. Novated lease, I believe, it depends how it's been set up. So I'm guessing that can be a little bit more complex, but effectively, I'm guessing all your expenses and stuff like that are covered. So that's where it can get a little bit tricky. So I think you have to look at the lease effectively and say, okay, if all your costs are being paid by your employer in that case, then you may not be eligible to claim some of those deductions. Okay, so with completing a quarterly BAS, you calculate your quarterly use of car for business that applies. A quarterly BAS. It's a little bit, I'm a little bit confused on that question, but I'm guessing here it's in relation to what I was talking about before. Generally, you need a logbook, right? But if it's your first time lodging a BAS and you don't have a completed logbook, then like I said, a reasonable calculation of calculating your business use percentage is reasonable. Okay, so I understand we can claim GST from ATO when we buy a car from a dealer. What other? Yeah, so I think with that question, you're basically saying what other stuff that you can claim. So anything that's related to that motor. So any cost for that motor vehicle now becomes claimable. So fuel, registration, insurance, service and maintenance, and all that stuff. So in that case, anything that's got to do with the motor vehicle all becomes a deduction. Will we share the recording? Yes, we will. We will email everyone after this. You will have and Q&A as well. I won't be able to get through all the questions today, but I'll do my best. Okay. So yeah, why are meals or snacks not deductible? Do they expect drivers? Well, that's without a, yeah. No, I understand that, but then if that's the case, it applies. It's not just doesn't just apply to rideshare drivers. Even if I myself was an employee, I worked in an office, you can't claim meals, right? So it applies to everyone, right? There are some special considerations, exceptions, I should say, where you can claim it, but it doesn't just apply to Uber drivers, it applies to everyone, right? So whether you're an office worker or whether you're a ride driver, rule applies. Meals and snacks are not, because they eat as well. If they're working in an office, they're not tax deductible either. Is there any claim electricity? So hi, there is an electric car, you can claim electricity instead of petrol. So yes, I actually didn't cover that. That's probably a good one that I didn't cover that in this webinar, but effectively we have covered it in some other ones, but effectively, yes, you can claim electricity. I think the ATO have a few different methods. You can obviously get your electricity bill and try and work out in terms of kilowatts and stuff like that, how much you're actually consuming to charge that car if you are charging it from home. Or the ATO have a special rate. It's per kilometer. I forgot. I think is it. Sorry, not per kilometer. Per kilometer. From memory, I think it's 4 cents per kilometer. I'd have to double check that, but I think it's 4 cents. So, for example, if you've done 2,000 kilometers, multiply that by, I'm pretty sure it's 4 cents. I could be wrong, but they do have a special rate, so you don't have to sit there trying to calculate your electricity bill. Yeah, so as before, another one on meals seems to be, yeah, we do get a lot of people just asking or trying to claim meals. Yeah, there are exceptions. Could be, for an example, it could be someone that is required to potentially travel and stay overnight. Then you could potentially claim meals, but not for every day if you're just going to work. You know, do whatever it is, your 8 hours, or that's generally not. But that's when it would apply if you need to travel for work and stay in accommodation. Meals are generally tax deductible then. Good question. What is the cost of lodging a BAS? What we charge, we're really cheap. It's $49 per BAS lodgement, so pretty cheap. Most accountants just do not charge that. We've made it easy through our platform. It's just much easier, so that's why we're able to keep our costs low. So I purchased a brand new car in October 22. I was not using that car for Uber. However, from last month, I've been using that car for Uber. Can I claim the GST? Well, that all depends on when you were registered for GST. So if you had been, okay, but previously you weren't using it. I think that's okay. That's okay, provided that you were registered for GST at the time. So, so that would be okay. So you would need to register for GST. I think you'd have to backdate your GST registration if you're not registered, and then you'd be able to claim it. I prefer to lodge a lot with the percent method instead of logbook. Um, so I think you're probably, it sounds like you're a little bit confused with some of the methods that you've heard out there, but effectively the logbook method is a method of you, so you're referring to the cents per kilometer method, I believe that. So the way that works is no logbooks required. I don't have to sit there dealing and stuff like that with logbooks and, for a period of 12 weeks, recording all my kilometers. The cents per kilometers is a maximum of the ATO will allow up to 5,000 kilometers at a maximum rate. I think it's 78 cents or no, 85 cents, I believe. Sorry, it's just been a little while since I've looked at the rates, but basically you can claim up to 5,000 at you're very, the problem with that is that's great, but I think if you work out I've got a calculator. So 5,000, I believe, times 0.85. Yeah, it works out to $4,250 that you can claim. So if I claim the maximum cents per kilometer method, 5,000 Ks at 85 cents, the maximum I can claim on my motor vehicle is 4,250. Whereas if I've got all my other expenses, fuel, registration, insurance, that's going to quickly add up to more than that. So you're better off claiming the logbook method. So you can use the cents per kilometer method, but you're limited to what you can claim. We always recommend keeping a logbook. Even 9 times out of 10, you will use it. But even if you don't, you've still got that option. It just gives you the better, better options, I guess, to be able to claim more. Is there GST payable on tips? So hate to break this to you, but yes, unfortunately, tips are, there is GST payable on tips. Sorry to break it to you. Okay, with the logbook, what are the trips to do medicals or what are the trips to do medicals for rideshare team? I think it's for rideshare. Well, if it's business related, I'm not, it's a little bit hard to understand your question, but if you're taking a passenger and it's business related, then that's fine. That would be considered as just business use, I guess. If it's anything outside of rideshare and you're doing some other work, and it's business related, well, that's a business related uh, entry into your logbook. If tolls are reimbursed, are they a tax deduction? Yes, you can still claim tolls. Sorry, I'll rephrase that. So no, if the tolls have been reimbursed, generally you do a trip, and then the tolls are reimbursed back to you. Um, then no, that's not a tax deduction. Sometimes you may not get reimbursed out of that trip, and you've used your car for business purposes. Well, then that is a tax deduction. Okay. Yes. Can I claim TaxLeopard subscription on your tax return? Yes. Simple. Okay. What if you're using vehicle belonging to your son? That's actually a good question. No, I think that's okay because that's family related. I think that would be okay because I know that there's like a lot of for people that are married, they generally use each other's car and stuff like that. You still technically can. So I'd have to look into that. The son is, I guess it's family. It's not like it's a friend or something like that. So I don't think that would be an issue, but I might have to look into that one. So how much is it to subscribe to TaxLeopard? We do have a few different. We'll provide a link on. It's on our website if you go to the pricing section. But it's effectively there's monthly subscriptions. We have different options. They start from $11.99. Then you've also got the Pro subscription, which gives you access to us. So through the year, you can ask as many questions as you like. Anything that you want to claim, it's all on our website, but we can also send you a link. But it starts at $11.99 for just a basic subscription. And then we've got our Pro plan as well, which has more features. So I can't go through everything. But yeah, just have a look at our website and you'll see and see which one you want to choose. But yes, generally speaking, the annual plans are further discounted as well. So yeah, I think the essential plan starts at $110 a year, and we've got a 30% discount. So whatever that works out to be after this webinar. Can I use my loss from Uber to reduce my income tax return? So the short answer is yes, you can, absolutely. So if you've got some losses, the only exception that the ATO want to do is they want to at least, to be able to claim that loss from Uber, they need to see a minimum of $20,000 income from Uber. All right. So I'll tell you why they did that, because then I can just set up a business. I can literally earn $100, right? And then claim all these deductions and have this massive loss, right? So what the ATO is saying, no, we will allow that, but we need $20,000 of income from Uber to be able to claim it. So if you had 20,000 and say 30,000 in expenses, that $10,000 loss would be okay to claim it. So they're non-commercial losses. It's around that rule. So what if I'm only delivering for food and I applied for GST? So yes, so then you don't really need to be registered for GST if I'm assuming you're earning under 75K. Then you can voluntarily register for GST. I don't see why you would want to if your income is higher than your expenses, because effectively you're paying GST when you don't need to be. But so yeah, you can deregister from GST if you think you've registered incorrectly. So I think we answered that before. What are the charges for BAS? $49 per quarter. Income tax is 179 for a year end. Excuse me, tax return. Uh, Yeah, so another one, why do we need logbook for Uber Eats when we already have kilometers? Yeah, so the kilometers in your Uber Eats tax statements, again, this comes down to maximizing your deductions. As I explained before, keeping a logbook, you can claim a lot more, right? Whereas if you just want to claim the cents per kilometer method, you're welcome to do that. But you are capped at that 5,000 kilometer times the ATO rate. So I think I've touched up on that, so I won't. So that's a good question. Can we claim depreciation on that? Unfortunately, there's no depreciation. It's just a tax deduction. That's claimable on your year-end tax return. Um, yeah, I hope that answers your question. So it's not claimable on your BAS, but it's claimable on your tax return at year-end. There's no GST on depreciation. Okay, I'm currently registered to only do Uber delivery of my earnings beyond that. What should I do? Yeah, that also, if you're under the 75K threshold, then yes, cancel your GST registration. Yes, can we claim the full amount of the car purchase? Yes, you can. Sorry, I just answered that question. So yes, you can, provided that you've got some sort of estimate of how much you're using your car for business purposes. But yes, you could claim 100%. But generally speaking, it's also good to have a logbook. But if you don't have that, a reasonable estimate is totally fine. So I bought my car a year before starting Uber. Can I claim the GST? Well, no, technically no, because you started Uber 12 months after you purchased the car. So this is what I was saying about timing. It's important that if you're thinking about doing Uber and you're like, hey, I'm thinking about purchasing a new car, get your GST registration, get registered, get your ABN, get registered, then go purchase your car so you can claim the GST on it. Better to run through an ACN, so company or sole trader. I think that's overkill. Not for these amounts. I think a company, you should set up a company if you're earning some serious income. So, I see a lot of Uber drivers that are not earning that much that are setting up companies. I don't think it's the smartest way to do it. In some cases, it can be beneficial, but a tax on a company is 25%. Yes, it's lower, right? But it's also good when you're earning, a lot of money, basically, right? So a company that's have $1 million in profit, for example, will pay the ATO 250,000, whereas if they put that in their personal return, they're paying probably 500,000, double that, right? So it starts to make sense. There's also the first 0 to 20,000 for someone that's an employee, an individual. There's no tax on that as well. So I wouldn't recommend setting up a company. You've got company costs, you've got like some like company tax return that usually costs a lot more. I would stay away, but it's also a question you need to ask. Yeah, I think it really depends on your income. But yeah, I wouldn't classify it as a rule that if your income's over 75K, you've got to set up a company. That might not be the smartest tax move. So you need to speak to an accountant that understands that as well. Yeah, feel free to get in touch with us. It's not a simple answer, but generally speaking, no. Okay, I don't have any receipt for my last quarter. Look, if you don't have the receipts, that's fine. You need some sort of even bank statement or something if you legitimately lost all your receipts. have some sort of bank statements, generally speaking. But look, it's only really going to matter at the end of the day. Just future reference, change that going forward. Make sure you got receipts. But future reference, yeah, keep your receipts. It's not really going to matter unless you were pulled into an ATO audit. Then, you'd probably be a little bit concerned because they might ask for invoices. Can I get a copy of the PAT? Yes, we can. Okay. What if I stop working as an Uber driver? Well, no. If you're not running the business anymore, then no. You can still be registered for GST. You just lodge a nil activity as well. You can just lodge a zero BAS, and you just got to remember to do it every sort of 3 months or when you're registered. So do international students, do I need a BAS? So yes, it can depend on your, generally speaking, if you're here, you've got some sort of visa, you do need the laws still apply to you. If you're doing Uber, so the same sort of laws would apply to you. Would need more information around that, but generally speaking, yes, you do. I will have 2 sources of income, one from Uber, which one coaching, and my coaching business. Do I need to do 2 BAS statements? No. So a good question. So in this case, you've got income from Uber and income from your coaching business. No, you don't need to do 2 separate BASs. You can report it if you're using the same ABN. Remember, we talked about ABNs before. You can report it under the same ABN because it sounds like you're running it through the same ABN. So you would report your rideshare income and all your coaching business income in the same ABN, as long as and the expenses relating to Uber and your coaching business. I like this question. If my income is 75, so that means well, no. It also, I think we touched up on this. It depends what you're doing. If you're doing rideshare driving, then it doesn't matter. You need to be registered. If you're doing, in that case, food delivery and your income is under 75, no, you don't need to do a BAS. I've kind of touched up on this, how to calculate kilometers. It's a cents per kilometer method. You can use it, but the ATO allow up to 5,000 kilometers at 85 cents per kilometer. It works out to 4,250 per year as a tax deduction. Can we maintain a logbook, or it has to be? Excel is fine, as long as it's got the main sort of things you need for a logbook. So, for example, date, trip, traveled, kilometers, where and from. I think is required, and whether it was for business or personal. But yes, some people do use Excel. That's totally fine. You just got to remember to update Excel. Do you include revenue from Uber promotions and tips when calculating, or do you? So yes, Uber promotions, it's the same. You're still earning, just because it's a promotion, it's still income. And tips as well. So that's generally. Yes. Do I need an ABN to register for GST? Yes, you do. I think I've answered this one. I've purchased a brand new car. What do I need to do to claim GST? Basically, if you register for GST, then yes, you can claim the GST on your BAS. So you report the purchase price of the car. You would put that. If you need further assistance, let us know and we can assist you if you're not too sure what you're doing there. I'm registered owner is Uber Eats, so I do want to submit BAS and income tax calculator. It's all. Okay. No, so if you're just doing Uber Eats and your income is under 75K, then no, you don't need to lodge a BAS, but you can claim all eligible expenses. We've kind of gone through it. There's a lot to go through there. that relating to your Uber Eats delivery. Can I include car seat? I think I could be wrong here. I'm not too sure. Does Uber do anything? Yes, if it's, I'm pretty sure you can. I'm actually not too sure, but I'm pretty sure. I don't know the rules around that, but if Uber allow it for you to carry kids, it's probably something you need to check with Uber. But I can give you the tax side of it. If Uber allowed it, then yes, you could claim the car seat as a tax deduction. I'm going to leave it at that. So, because I'm not too sure whether Uber allows that. So it's just something maybe you should check with Uber. What if I stop working? Do I still? That's happened twice. That question. Yes, you do. Some of these are repeating, so I'm just going to go ones that we. That's a good one. Do we require a logbook for 365 days? No, just for 12 weeks. So you record all your kilometers for a consecutive 12 weeks. Business and private. You can't just record all your business kilometers, but when you use the car privately, you need to record those. And at the end of it, it's say I've done 10,000 kilometers for the quarter. Let's say 8,000 of those are business, 2,000 of those are private. Well, that's 80% business, just as an example. I'm getting, can the app account for novated lease car? Yes, we can. We can deal with that. We're accountants as well, so any sort of tax advice and stuff like that is required around that, we can provide that. Okay. A lot of questions here. We've got just a few more questions at this stage. Is there GST on rego invoice and license? Yes, I believe. So rego is an interesting one because not all of it, some of it is stamp duty, I believe, on registration. So just check on the invoice amounts. And license, I believe they have GST on license. Yeah, I think there is. Sorry, it's just been a while since I've looked at that. Yes. Can we claim? Okay. How does it work? Oh, that's a good question. How does it work when the car is sold? So when the car is sold, you do need to report that as income if you're registered for GST. Oh, sorry. I shouldn't say if you're registered for GST, but it's called the balancing adjustment. So it can depend on how much you've depreciated the car through the year. So for example, if I bought a car for 10,000, just giving round figures, I've used that depreciation of 10,000. Then I sell it for 5,000. Well, because I've used up all my I would report $5,000 as income. So it can depend on how much, without getting too technical, it can be a bit more of a technical question, but it depends on what the car's worth in your books at the end of it before you sell it. So it can either create a profit or a loss. That's effectively. Look, just a few more because we are running out of time. Okay. We've had fees question. Yes, can we claim GST on purchase like dash cams? Yes. Yes. So if you've missed stuff as well, you can revise your BAS as well. You can effectively the ATR, I think it's a period up to, could be wrong here, but I think it's up to 4 years you can revise your BAS. I may be wrong on that, but I'd have to check. But you can. Either way, I think your question is, if I've missed deductions, can I claim that back? Yes, you can revise your BAS to claim it. So this one, how much can be claimed for? So that's not a simple question. Basically, there's various methods of depreciation. it's not a quick answer, but that I can answer just now. But there are various methods of depreciation. So yeah, I can't give you an answer because I'd need obviously the cost, the date was purchased, has it been written off? There's just too much, so I can't answer that. Um, okay, I think we're going to do one more. Let's we'll do this one. I'm an NDIS worker, self-employed. I already have an app where I take notes, especially keep records of support session. Is it still worthwhile? Having the tax yes, so we do have some NDIS workers on our platform. They do rideshare and NDIS. Yeah, perfectly. It just depends what you're after. We manage more the tax side of things. In terms of reach out to us if that's easier. See how we can help. See what you're actually using and stuff like that. Maybe. All right, one last one. I'm just keeping. There's just too many questions. What we'll do, we'll go through all this. So don't feel too disheartened if I've missed anything. We will go through all these questions and we'll answer that when we send a follow-up email as well. With a lot of the questions that we missed, and we'll have some answers as well. All right, I think. All right, one more. I'm just looking for. There's a lot of repeat sort of questions that I've covered. All right, we'll do two more. Can I claim prescription? So unfortunately, no, prescription glasses are not tax deductible, but because that's you need those glasses, but I'm talking about sunglasses. So if you're driving and, obviously as a driver, there's sun and stuff like that, that becomes a tax deduction. One last one, can we claim interest paid on a loan? Yes, you can, provided that the car's used for business. Yes, you can claim it, keep a logbook and all that stuff, and you can claim a percentage of the interest. All right, I think I'm going to have to wrap it up. There is still a lot of questions. So yeah, don't be too disheartened. We will go through all. We've got a record of all these questions. We'll go through it. Look out for an email. We'll have an email from us with a recording of this webinar and some of all these questions that have been raised. And then I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. As discussed, we'll send out an email shortly over the next 24 to 48 hours. But yeah, if you need to get in touch, that's our email, support@taxleopard.com.au. Once you sign up here to get that deal, taxleopard.com.au. We also have, once you've signed in, you will see we've got in-app customer support. So if you need to ask questions once you're logged into our platform, you'll see a help button there as well. But yeah, thanks for your time, guys. And yeah, hope you've enjoyed and gotten something out of this webinar. Cheers. Thank you.